I'm John Palinkas, been here for 9 years now. And I'm going to start off by deviating from what Tony asked. Instead of telling you my qualifications, I'm going to tell you why I decided to run. And part of it has to do with how I've been feeling about it. And the first time I thought I was going to run was when I saw an email from the board, basically on September 5th. It's candidate questions. But it started with, as we approach a new chapter in our community governance. What? Wait, governance? And then I read down and it said the HOA's board of directors is more than just a governing body. And that stopped me cold because Gateway at Royce Brook Homeowners Association, Inc., is a business entity. It's not government, it's a business entity. Like Weiss or Colts. Who's heard of Radburn? Okay, Radburn is a set of rules that the state has to govern HOAs. Anyone know the history? Radburn is an HOA community in North Jersey, where the board broke so many rules and did so many wrong things, they rewrote a whole new set of rules. And that's Radburn. So bottom line, it's really important to stay focused on that. So I looked at that and I said, do I want to run? And the answer was no. I thought about it, but I said, no, I don't want to do it. Then we saw all these things about the transition meeting, how important it is. We should go, we should be there, we should participate. Marcia and I were going on vacation the next day, and she said, I don't want to go, we're going on vacation, but we went. An hour and a half of looking at slides from a report that had been sent out a week before. An hour and a half. There could have been a lot better use of that time. Then 20 minutes of our attorney telling us what our strategy is for transition. Our attorney, the guy that wrote all the policies that have come out recently, and every single one had to be taken back because it was wrong. Transition is critical. We get one shot getting it right. If we don't get it right, we could end up with assessments in thousands of dollars. But even after that, I wasn't sure I wanted to run. Oh, and by the way, I almost forgot the 10 minutes left at the end for questions. Yeah, right. So much for that. Oh, we're out of time. Need to go. You know when I decided to run? I decided to run when we're driving up to Newport the next day. And I realized that transition meeting, not a single board member spoke. It was publicized as the most important meeting we should be at, and not a single board member spoke. That's when I decided to run. We need that kind of leadership here. I'm done. Thank you.
All right, to me. All right, my name is Marty Wolfson and I'm running for the board. I spent 35 years of my career with Internal Revenue Service, working my way up to senior management. I had 120 professionals working for me, and I was called upon to do several national projects involving new locator information, services, and also negotiating contracts. Since moving here 3 years ago, I've been actively involved in the community. I was co-chair of the Architectural Committee, a member of the Rules and Regs Committee, a member of the Community Relations Advisory Council, and chair of the Finance Committee. I play golf with the Gateway Men's Golf Club, and my wife and I enjoy many of the Gateway's activities. Past January, I became treasurer, and I've worked hard to keep our finances strong and our operations transparent. Some highlights include negotiating contracts to save the community tens of thousands of dollars, supporting open forums prior to board meetings so residents can speak freely, reviewing invoices carefully for accuracy, and helping organize the engineer's presentation. On our transition reserve study. Something rarely done, but important for transparency. As treasurer, I stay closely involved in every financial decision, from monitoring reports and budgets to ensuring we get fair value in every contract. Our community is financially sound, and maintaining that strength will remain my top priority. Today, we face a pivotal time with transition. We brought in a strong team of professionals to guide us, but sound financial leadership, clear communication, and teamwork will be critical. I believe my background, negotiating skills, and commitment to listening to all voices in Gateway make me well suited to continue serving. I'd be honored to represent you for another 2 years, and I respectfully ask for your vote. Thank you.
Okay, a round of applause for the opening statements. Folks, let's start. Well done, gentlemen. The next item on the agenda is the formal Q&A, and I will turn it over to the panelists. Phil Gann.
Okay, first subject, general subject we'll be speaking about tonight is transition. It's definitely the hot topic in our community right now. And the first question goes first to John. John, beyond hiring legal and engineering experts, how do you leverage skills and knowledge within our community to strengthen the board's position when negotiating with our developer?
All right, let me start with a little thing from my history. On December 8th, 1998, AT&T bought IBM's global network for $5 billion. I was chief architect on that deal. I've worked with major corporations and I basically managed the transition of that function into AT&T. So I've done a lot. If you name contract negotiations, I've done dozens of them. To me, the key part is how you negotiate, what position you take, what things you're willing to give up, what things you're not willing to give up. There's certain times when you need to draw a line in the sand, no matter what. And that to me is great. It's not about having, it's about having the right team, but it's having the right leadership of that team to basically say, these are the things that we will not back off on. And, you know, bottom line is if we back off on the wrong things, it's going to cost us a lot. So I've got the experience, I've got the expertise. For a decade, I basically did advisory work to C-level executives at Fortune 500 companies. So I think I can add some of those skills to what we're going through here.
Thank you, John. Marty, second question.
Yeah, the transition team originally that selected the professionals that we have now went out to the community several times to pick everyone's brain on what they thought was a problem in the community. Even today, we continue to talk to people in the community. We get emails from the community to try to understand or to include with the engineer's report if there was anything that was missed. So I think the question itself is that it's organic and it's continuing to evolve because we have to give the engineer as much information as we can, and the board certainly needs the help of others to provide the professionals with the information. So to answer the question shortly is that we continually going to ask people for information, and we are getting a lot of feedback from the community with that.
Thank you, Marty. Second question, also related to transition. We'll start with Marty this time. You're the lucky man. What is your philosophy when it comes to negotiating with the developer? For example, would you prioritize a lump sum settlement or insist the developer directly fix all identified defects and omissions?
We can't dictate anything to Premier. Let's get that straight right off the bat. We can only present to them the findings, like we had in the reserve study, that both what we used as leverage was making sure that the township gets the reserve study along with the developer. So the township can help us put pressure on Premier. And as you see, Premier is going around the development now and fixing things. So I can't answer that question right now. It's early in the game. We need to first see what the builder fixes. And then we go back to the engineer with the lawyer, and the board sits down with them and discusses it. And at that point, we'll know where we stand. It's a little premature.
Thank you. John, same question.
So with any negotiating strategy, you start with what are the pros and cons behind of each strategy. So if you look at the all-in-one lump sum, the pro of that is you can probably get done quicker. The con to that is you're going to get less out of it. So the pro to the piece by piece is you can get things improved. You can make progress. You can keep things moving. You can keep the ball on the court. The con to that is there's a lot more time involved in the negotiating. So honestly, from what I've seen, when you try to lump sum things get buried under the carpet. So personally, as a strategy going in, and by the way, Marty's right, we can't dictate to Premier, but we should have what's our strategy going in. My strategy would be to go piecemeal, to say, look, let's start with these items. There's things on here that are no brainers. Let's knock them off. Let's make progress. I mean, when I did major change initiatives with companies, we have philosophy, 90-day cycles. Pick something, fix it, implement, report on 90 days, make progress, small chunks. And by the time we were at the end of a year, we had done more in 1 year than that company had done in the prior 3. So I would use that as a starting strategy. You may end up in the lump sum, but you need to pick where you start.
Thank you, John. We have one more question related to transition.
Only what?
Only one more.
I'm so disappointed.
Come up with a few more.
Yeah, okay. John, this one starts with you. During the transition process, how would you resolve disagreements between the board and our hired professional experts?
So look, disagreements come out of a difference of opinion. As we sit here in this room, there's probably 50 different opinions on how we should do it. The question is, when you have this, and we used to run workshops where we did this, we literally start with a workshop with a vice president where we asked everyone on his team to put up what they thought was the best approach to things. And he said, I want these 5 things out of this workshop. We got to lunchtime, not a single one of his items were out there. And he walked over ready to fire us. And I said, wait till the end of the day. We made everyone go back and document what were the pros and cons of your opinion. Why are you doing this? What's important in this to you? They came back with that. They worked together. And at the end of the day, there were 5 items on the top. And guess what? They were the same 5 items the VP wanted because everyone understood where everyone else was coming from. They understood the pros and cons, why they were suggesting this. They understood that when we ran transition programs, we didn't start with, go do this. We started by telling the executive, write a why this, why now document. So I would do that here. I would start with, why do you think this is important? What are you trying to achieve with this? What's the cost of doing that? Where are the trade-offs? Bring everyone to a common understanding. That would be the approach.
Thank you, John. Marty, same question.
By asking the question, how would you resolve disagreement between the board and our hired professionals? I can't ask you for a definition of that. So where are we in the process? Are we in the 3rd inning, the 7th inning, or the 9th inning? It's very important because it's easy to say here that I would negotiate like A, B, and C or anything. But there is going to be a lot that the builder will not do and tell us that he did it or doesn't need to be done. So we're going to have to get to the point where we have to listen to the professionals, and the professionals will sit with us as we're going to do now. We're going to sit with them frequently to know where we stand with the builder and where we are going forward. After they do the builder does what he wants, we go back to the engineer to fix everything up, and then we do it. But to answer this question, the bottom line, the board makes the decision. You get input from the professionals, but the board makes the final decision. That's our job.
Thank you, Marty. I know you're disappointed, but that is the last question that we're going to have right now on transition.
We're gonna go to the Giants.
We're going to move on to one that's close to our pocketbooks. Financial stewardship. Marty, this one's for you first. How would you approach financial stewardship to ensure HOA fees are managed effectively and unnecessary costs are avoided?
Well, I think that we've already done that this year, especially since I've been on board. It's by revisiting contracts and making sure that the vendor is doing what we wanted to do at a price that we think is appropriate. We had the first bite of the apple was with the landscaping. Growing concerns, in our opinion, didn't fit our needs. So we went out for bids and we wound up with Brightview. So whether Brightview is doing a great job, okay job, we save $64,000 the first year on the contract. And next year, we're gonna save the same based on what growing concerns charge us. And that's not even to say what the snow removal is. We negotiated snow removal half of what growing concerns charge. So that's how I think we should approach, especially as treasurer, that when contracts come up, we do have to spend money. There's no doubt about it. There's a new gooseneck call box out there. And because we heard from everyone here that we're getting older and our eyesight is not like we were when we were 30 years old. So we addressed it. That was an additional cost, but one that we all thought on the board was worthwhile. So I think it's by revisiting contracts, by looking at what we're spending. And another thing, this budget starting January is the first budget since we took over the keys from here. So the finance committee that did the budget had to base it on historical information that a lot of it wasn't there. So we will know going into the second year on the budget, more accuracy and will be more definitive and everything to avoid what really is being asked here, that we don't have an assessment. But I had time from the last question. Doesn't work that way.
You can't bank them? Nice try.
Thank you, Marty.
Appreciate it.
John, same question.
So, I'm gonna approach this a little differently. I don't disagree with Marty that there's been a problem with financial stewardship. I think it's been valid. I think it's been there. I think this question comes from a different place. I think it comes from the fact that people don't know that. You gave a few facts there, which I think were great. It's not shared. That's part of it. I think this question came from the fact that people are wondering, why are you spending money on that? I go back to my why this, why now? Let's explain some of these expenses. Let's tell people why it's necessary. Let's get them involved, not in making the decision, but in understanding the factors behind that decision. Like Marty said here, great comment. You know, for snow removal, we're paying half now than what we paid before. How many people here knew that? I'm not gonna raise my hand because I didn't. Okay, couple, not many. But that I think is the issue where this question came from. I think if we address that and keep doing the practices that are in place, then people understand how the money is being spent. Because that is, I think, the concern, not that it's being spent improperly.
Thank you, John. The next question comes right out of last year's CPA exam. No. We're moving on.
All right, I'm gonna cheat and look at his answer, then that's all.
We're moving on right now from financial stewardship, and we're moving on to something that I think we all have concerns with, and that's communications. John, this first question's for you. Please define transparency for an HOA board and provide specific examples on how you would put it into practice.
So bluntly put, transparency's been used in every election that I can remember, and no one's ever delivered on. So that's number one. Transparency is why this, why now. Don't just make a decision. Explain what's behind that decision. Explain what your reasoning is. How would I put, and by the way, one thing I would do is what I said in my video, what I did Saturday, what I intend to do in the future is anyone who wants to talk, I'll go sit in that library for an hour, come and talk to me about whatever you want. You know, because that's what's missing right now. There's one-way communication coming from the board. There's things that aren't even transparent. And bluntly put, I said in the video, there's 4 things in state law 4 things in our bylaw which cannot be discussed, you know, and I won't go over them because they're out there. You can look them up. But the bottom line is, other than that, as owners of this business, you have a right to everything else. So for example, if a contract is in negotiation, you have no right to that information. Once that's closed, you have a right to that information. You also have a right to know who the other people were that bid on, what those bids were, and you have a right to understand why this person was chosen. So to me, it's not transparency because that's worthless. It's communication, and it has to be two-way. I'm done, no paddle.
Thank you, John. Marty, same question.
I think if you asked everybody in this room what wrote on a piece of paper what transparency is, you're gonna get 50 different answers. So in my mind, transparency is providing information. That's what it is. There are those golden rules, 4 golden rules that preclude us as board members to talk. And those carry 90% of the stuff that we're talking about here. We talk, we have open board meetings. We move that up from quarterly to every other month to try to enhance communication. And in that, we talk about things. We have the community forum up front that you can ask questions. And when we did the contract with the landscaping, we did talk about the other, who didn't have, we talked about the other vendors. And we posted all of the contracts on Vanica so that you could see what we did. So we can't tell you stuff that delinquencies, we all know the 4 parts that we can't talk about. So the main thing is when emails come in, we respond to them. When we have open board meetings, we talk to them. So my idea of transparency is letting everyone know as they come up.
Thank you, Marty. Next general topic, community well-being. We'll start with Marty this time. Marty, residents have expressed concerns about some recurring issues, like the entry gates, snow removal, and traffic safety. How would you prioritize and address these services and safety issues?
I think they're important, and I think that we've heard them, and we heard all of you, and we hear ourselves on this also. So I'll take the entry gate. The entry gate, the one, can I ask you, you mean right out here? We don't know. Okay. All right. The entry gate coming in, we can't touch. The builder's in charge of that. We can't do anything because it'll inhibit in his opinion, it'll inhibit his ability to sell houses. The gate over by Price, where I live, between Price and Spratt.
Wait a minute, no helping.
Thank you, Spratt. Where the board is addressing that, we're doing a feasibility study right now to combine it and make a fence where that gate is that all the people pour in from the townhouses. Harshad and I are working on it. We already have a few bids. We got to go to the township and start the permit process to see how much it would cost. So we're taking care of that, which I think is a major issue. So we can button that up, but we can't button up the front gate right now because the builder will not allow us. What was the other question? Gate snow removal. With having saved 50% on the upcoming, we're going to be more diligent and more open-minded about the snow removal under 2 inches. Because that was a state law, that's the discretion up to the board. So we are going to be more favorable to do plowing and salting before that. Traffic safety, we had the town come in, put up the speed monitor, which nobody was speeding because they saw the sign. So I'm done. I'll finish that on the next question.
Thank you, Marty. John, same question.
So I think part of the issue is, again, prioritization. You need to do a risk analysis of that. So for example, if I look at what's on here, Snow was the number one issue because people were fearful of their own safety. So take every single risk issue and do a prioritization of it. Explain what your priority is and why, you know, and quite honestly, certain things you can do things about immediately. They're quick fixes, others take a while. But once again, I think the frustration, having been on the outside of a lot of these things and watched them, is you feel like you're giving information in, but what's happening with that information is never fed back. It's not a question of the board needs to give you a decision tomorrow, but the board needs to tell you this is what we're thinking and this is what we're planning. And oh, by the way, to Marty's point, it may take until the builder's out of here to get control of that gate. But tell people that and tell them this is why it's an issue, but we can address it now. This is the concern. So I think in terms of that, it's a matter of listening, prioritizing it and feeding back that priority, and again, getting more input. Because right now, gathering input is very haphazard. Oh, I run into somebody sends a message, somebody complains. You know, there's such a thing as sending out surveys and polls. I mean, the Rules and Regulations Committee did it. I thought it was a great opportunity to gather input. Not a lot of people answer, but it still provides the opportunity. Okay, and now before you get to the red. But no, seriously, it's a matter of a structured approach to prioritization and explaining why you took that approach.
Thank you, John. Next question, directed first to you, John. How would you ensure board discussions and homeowner interactions remain professional and solution focused, while also making sure every voice is heard and valued?
So we face this problem with a lot of companies that I consulted at. One of the first things that happens is people don't feel they're being heard. When they don't feel they're being heard, that's when that distrust, that's when that anger, that's when that frustration comes out. So one way I would address if I sat on the board is once, twice a month, whatever necessary, I'll go sit in the library. Anyone who wants to stop by and talk to me. I'm not going to handle your problems. I'm not going to solve anything. I'm going to talk to you. You want to know what's going on? I'll tell you. You want to give me your opinion? I'll listen and I'll feedback what happens to it. So to me, that open channel. And by the way, there's something I proposed back when the council was around. I proposed that the board create a communications function, not a committee, a function dedicated to communications. One person to do technology, well, we know who that is now already. You know, one person to basically communicate professionally, and we have a number of people that do that in the newswire that's out, so there's some great candidates there. And then one person to handle community relations, somebody out there to talk to the community on a regular basis. And the council is going to support me going to the board with that, but the council resigned. So that never went anywhere. But if I'm on the board, that's one of the first things I'll put in place is a communications function, not staffed by the board, not staffed by the property manager, staffed by people here who know what they're doing in those spaces.
Thank you, John. Marty, same question.
I think that I respect the residents in this community. And as a resident and a current board member and running for the board, I don't think I have to tell you every day that the builder is in charge of the gate. I think what happens is that a lot of people are unhappy with that answer because we can't do anything. Our hands are tied with that. So I think that we can only do what we can do. And if you want me as a board member to tell you every day that the builder's in charge of it, I think we're wasting both our time. But to answer this question, how can you ensure homeowners interact professionally? It's up to us. The only people that can lower the temperature is us in this room. If you have an issue, you say what the issue is. We're all here, coming here to a 55 and older community to get along and to make new friends and to do activities. There is a way to speak to each other and a way not to. And I think sometimes when you have open board meetings, anyone who took a video of that and showed it to our kids would say, Mom, Dad, you'd smack the hell out of me if you talk like that. So I think that it's up to all of us to deal with that part of it. And we need to listen to everyone. We get emails all the time and we respond all the time too, but we don't always respond to the recipients like we can't. We do respond to 99%. So, and we hope we continue.
Thank you, Marty. Now, I know when we first started, it was shared with you that we had about 50 questions come in. We tried to distill that down as best we could. And I know both of you gentlemen are going to be very disappointed at this point, but this is the last of the prepared questions before we go through open questions.
Well, I have a funny feeling there'll be a lot of open questions.
So this one is for Marty. Dealing with rules and regulations. How would you ensure the fair and consistent enforcement of our existing rules and regulations?
Great question. Do we have rules and regs here? I'm not sure. Well, we have a rules and regs committee that is trying to make sense of everything and adapt it to our community. And as you can know, as we're going into our 10th year, that rules have not been enforced. It is a major undertaking to try to be fair. But one thing I will say about that, I don't think we should rat out our neighbor. I don't think when we walk around the neighborhood, we should put down 2-price circle. Is that tree where it should be, or should it be next? And then calling up the property manager and saying, hey, what's going on with that? I think we have to be fair and equitable and let the process happen without pushing things into it. We all want the place to look great, and that's the job of the board, to make sure the finances are under control and make sure the property values maintain what they are. When bad times, not only is good. So the aesthetics is very important. So in respects to rules and regs, we need to enforce them and we need to be fair and judicial about it. And when the new rules and regs come out, we'll have a firmer grip on how to go about it. But it's not an easy process. And it would be a little, what's the word I'm looking for without curse? It would be easy to say we should just enforce. But there are people on the other end of that. And we need to be fair and judicious with that. And when the new rules come out, we'll have a better idea.
Marty, thank you. John?
So I think I was in one of the first sessions for the rules and regs, and I made a radical suggestion, which I think shocked a lot of people. I said, for any new rule you want to put on the books, take 2 of them off. And the reason I said that is Carolyn Clark Kern across the street from us, talking to her, she said, I don't understand this. We came from a community, HOA community, 4 times this size. You have twice the number of rules we have. And most of them aren't enforceable. So I would come at this totally differently. Let's figure out which ones aren't enforceable. Let's figure out which ones are a carryover from what the builder bought from a different thing. Let's just strike all that nonsense. And then let's look at things. And when we talk fair and equitable, I know this is a hot topic for everyone. Parking. And there's been so many different parking things that have come out, one side of the street, the other side of the street. Let's be real honest. There's 2 or 3 spots like the curve on Quant that are a problem. Let's not make a rule for the entire community based on a problem spot. Let's solve the problem and not make another rule for the whole community. That's the fair and equitable way to handle it. You don't take one problem area and create a rule for the entire community. Wrong approach. Totally wrong approach. And I know in the past, I think when Tom was on the board, they had the fire marshal come out and talked about striping that area. It's a problem area. Fix the problem. Don't worry about the rules. And quite honestly, any rule that is unenforceable, remove it. But then the real question is, who do you want to enforce it? Because if you want enforcement, the board, I'm sure, can hire people to go around and do that, but that's more money. So figure out how important it is to you to enforce rules and which ones should be enforced.
Thank you, John.
Oh, I got the red one finally.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. You both did an excellent job with that. Randy, I don't think they went through any red lights, right?
Anyone, but that's.
But yeah, just a warning, no citation on. Okay,
But
next.
who's enforcing it?
Another rule.
Next question. All right, the next, section on the agenda is the live Q and A. And by live, I mean, audience, and, we will also entertain and integrate questions from the Zoom audience. I want to quickly, go over the ground rules for this. So one question per person. And please, please make it be in the form of a question and be respectful, in the manner that you ask the question. State your name and who the question is for. We would prefer that you have a question for both of the gentlemen. However, the way we're going to work it, if you direct your question to one of the individuals, we're going to allow the second individual to also weigh in on that topic. I think that's only fair. So the way we're gonna work it, we'll have a line behind the mic. And, what we would like to do, don't get up yet. What we'd like to do is, ask your question and then please return to your seat. When you're seated, then the candidate will begin, response. And as I said, we'll, integrate questions from the Zoom audience, so Tafik, you, indicate when you think you have one. Okay, so we will start whenever you guys are ready. Just get online. Everybody at once.
It's the phenomenon, no one wants to be first.
Well, they that intimidation.
So good with the response.
I can go first. Oh, there you go.
Good, now we have to fight for it.
Okay, go on. My question is probably more directed at Marty than anyone else, but it has to do with, you mentioned communication. Recently, and not so recently, requests came out from our club, the Gateway Gives Back Club, to do postings announcing events that we were sponsoring coming up. One sat there for 3.5 weeks without a response. Didn't hear from the board at all. And now then we heard from the board that talked to the property manager. I went and saw the property manager and she said, "You're an independent club." Yeah. And where is that addressed in the resolution? She couldn't point it out. Then we have a really radical event coming up called the Breast Cancer Walk. Right? And this is their 6th walk farm. Again, 4 weeks ago, we asked that that be posted. Crickets, nothing. Two things I want to know is, why isn't the board answering these requests? And if you're turning them down, why are you turning them down? Where in the resolution? By the way, the resolutions don't exist. They're not posted on the website. So where does the board come up with their answer through the property manager that we're an independent club, therefore you can't use the resources of the HOA? Thank you, Tom.
John, you want to take that?
I'm not unless you want to give me your credit card and then I
Well,
will.
you know, Tom, you and I talked about it and I said you had a good point. And we was gonna revisit it with the board. Because I'll tell you the truth. There's 4 members, and even though you think that we walk lockstep, we don't agree on everything. But on this issue, I think we're gonna get together and take another look at it, because I think it is important.
Well, you gotta take a look at it now. I mean, these events are coming up.
Not right now.
Well, that's,
You know.
may no discussion with
Yeah,
the
we can-
audience after the question.
No, I think that, I think it's gotta be addressed, and we need to, do that.
John would like to weigh in as well.
Look, this goes back to the same issue, communications. I mean, there's no two-way communications happening. And quite honestly, look at what happened with this election. I mean, last Monday by 4 p.m., candidates have to be in. And it wasn't until I posted on Nextdoor, are you ever going to tell who's here? Or do you want just people to show up and find out who's here? Communications is an issue, it's a problem, it's not being addressed. And to the issue specifically of an independent club, I am totally appalled by this concept of a sanctioned versus unsanctioned club. To me, that is a violation of our civil liberties. And quite honestly, I will fight tooth and nail to remove that.
Dan?
Okay, my question is somewhat different. It's more personal to John, actually. I don't know you really. So I wonder, how would you handle things? Are you a team worker? How will you handle, instances that nobody agrees with you and then your opinion is not accepted? Would you quit? Would you try to convince the other people? Would you accept it at the end? Pretty much your personality, really. Thank you.
Well, I tell everybody there's three types of people in the world. Those who love me, those who hate me, and those who don't know me. So you're one of those who don't know me, and I'd like to have you get to know me. So I have a company called the Institute for Digital Transformation. Here's what's unique. We do people and culture. We do this for companies all the time, where we go in and the manager has an unpopular idea and we work with them to figure out what is happening in your organization, what's important, how are people thinking, how are they feeling? And by the way, the number one issue in 90% of the companies I've dealt with is that people don't know, they don't understand. They have no concept of what's going on. So how would I deal with it if I have an unpopular opinion? I'd sit down and I'd say, okay, why is it unpopular? If it's unpopular and that many people are against it, I need to think twice about why I have that opinion. And if I can't say these are the reasons and rationale why this is important, and people here don't agree with that, then I need to change my opinion. Plain and simple. I mean, I'm here to represent the community if I get on the board. I'm not here to dictate how things go. And that is important. So if I have an opinion that we should do this and goes out and most communities says no, I'll back off. I will first explain all the reasons and rationales why I think it's important. But if that doesn't fly, then I'll back off. And by the way, feel free to come by. I'll set up another thing in the library. Come by and let's talk.
I believe we have a question in group chat. I'll turn it over to Sushi.
I don't get to,
I'm sorry.
I don't get to.
You can. You can.
Wait a minute, you're gonna talk about me? Good, I want to hear this.
He weighed.
Go for it.
Those of you who know me, and I think by now you know me, I don't quit. I take things to the end until I'm pulled away. And that's the same thing with this association. I don't quit. I will take what comes in and I'll try to work with it. Like I said, 99% of the time. So I will not quit with anything. I never have, and I never. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Let me just take one question from Zoom and then we'll go back to the live. Go ahead, Sophie.
Ron, you're on.
Could you hear me? Could you hear me? I'm sorry, was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, there seems to be an echo, but I'll try. First comment I have, and I don't need an answer on this, but I want everybody to give it a thought. And I agree with Marty, what he said about, about the conditions in the neighborhood, and it's not right for a neighbor to jot down something and run and tell somebody what the problem is. That it doesn't sound right, even just saying that. But what I would like to know and have everybody think about is how did the problems in the neighborhood get addressed if everybody has their eyes closed? We have a property manager, once again, who doesn't make her rounds, and she doesn't see what she should be seeing. And obviously the board is too busy, and rightfully so, on doing other things in transition, mainly, that they're not paying attention to what's happening outside. So how did things get addressed? that have to be fixed. All right, so anyway, think about that. So I want to get back to Marty's comment about the rear gate. Now, this is something that I would have never have thought we would discuss tonight, but being that it was brought up, I have a question. How much money do you think that the rear gate is going to cost us approximately, Marty?
$875.
5,800, and what is that for?
Plus the permits.
That's okay. So, and how much of that money
Back
is
to the
is
first
going to
part
be?
of the question.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, that's not a discussion.
So that was a discussion. That was.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Any comments from either of you?
I'm not sure I heard a question, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I think he's making a
Conclusion
comment.
thoughts.
But I answered the second part.
Nothing further. Well, let's go back to the live question.
Good evening. This problem we say, we see trespassers, coming to the community walking and taking dogs. Sorry.
Could you please speak into the microphone?
Community, gated community, lot of people we see walking, they don't belong.
Just a little closer.
So people, we see many people trespassing in our community. And also we see overspeeding cars in the road within the area. It is very difficult to policeman those people. I do understand the difficulty of that. HOA, board members cannot do the policeman job. Or we cannot have specially appointed policemen also. But there is a law, the board trespass a private property, don't trespass. Is a rule. And that rule is not there to break all the time. There should be some measure to implement that diplomatically. For example, one suggestion is, can we have some volunteers and then give homeowners association? And when we see that trespassers are violating the rules within our community, we can go and request, please, there's a rule here, please don't do it. If they do again, and we have to just volunteers should have some vigilance here. Is there a possibility? Otherwise, these boards they don't make any sense.
Can you take a seat and then we'll get the answer?
Excuse me?
Can you take a seat and then we'll get the answer?
Who do you want to go first?
We'll alternate. You can go first.
All right. So look, we know enforcement's an issue, and that's a problem. I'm gonna be totally honest and speak personally. There's a lot of crazy people in the world. I'm not gonna go stand out there and stop someone from coming in, because you don't know what they're gonna do to you. So enforcement's an issue. I totally agree with that. But part of this, I think, is perception that the builder sold us, which isn't exactly true. He sold the idea of a gated community. And a lot of us walked in here with the concept of there's walls around, you can't get in, you need a badge to get in and out. What we have is an open community with a gate on it. And it's going to be very difficult to stop anyone from coming in. So for example, like around the sides of Kaluna, there's townhouses there. The fence is 5 feet tall. Anyone can walk up and jump over. There's not a lot of good practical ways to restrict it. Yes, it is private property. Yes, we can call the cops. Yes, they'll come and ticket somebody. Yes, it might stop it for a while, but I'm not sure there is a good solution to that. And even when you have that, there are people that we had a deranged Amazon delivery guy that we had to call the cops on. He wouldn't leave our front porch. We're going to run into these kind of things. So I don't have a good answer. I don't know what to suggest other than one thing that we can do very clearly is we can upgrade the video surveillance system, and we can literally point and put something there and say, you have been recorded trespassing. That's all. Pop up a little screen as opposed to having to volunteer out there. Camera here, you've been recorded trespassing. That's all.
Thank you, John.
Done.
What?
Let me just clarify one point. Are you talking about foot traffic or vehicles?
Even truck drivers, UPS delivery, FedEx, they drive.
Oh, you're talking about the vehicles? Well, we do have a gate, so they have to get through the gate. And now the way it works is that you're gonna let the delivery person in. And so we have control over that, and we are gonna have cameras above the clubhouse out here that'll be facing it. We did the speed study, and we came out that there was very little speeding.
Yeah.
Well, what else can you do? You know, what else can you do?
Already go down.
But the people coming the other way were speeding more. But we're gonna have the cameras, we're gonna work on buttoning up the side by Kalina. But the traffic coming in is another issue.
Not sure what that is.
Thank you.
That means I have to go home.
You were the one that told me to put it on you.
It is on you.
Here we have another live question.
Thank you. I'm Geeta. I live in 6 Potter Road. My question is,
Hold the mic down a little bit.
my question is to do with communication. So currently the setup is that homeowners send email to Debbie. I've been told that she handles the stuff she can, and whatever she can add directly to the board members who then send us the email. So my question is it a problem for an email box to be set up with us addressing Debbie and all the board members to be CC'd, like the email box to be set up, so that there's visibility and also accountability for the RCP manager? So I would like to ask Marty as well as John, your opinion about that. Is it a problem?
Well, most of the emails that come in to Debbie, that the board gets CC'd also. And she, the property manager, when something comes up that is major concern, not just that I need a new tag for the car, the property manager is supposed to let the board know. If the property manager doesn't tell us, then we really don't know about it. But if anyone has a problem, CC the property manager and the board, at least one board member.
I have,
Because we look at all the emails. It's shared with all of us, and we all look at a potential response. So that's already in place.
yeah, because I have emailed and I've been told that you have to directly email them and that. My question is, why is it that the discretion of the manager to direct it to the board instead of just having an email box? So sometimes people do the CC sometimes, and then it's at the discretion of the thing. So that was the concern that I had about communication.
So. Okay, going back to my point. Gateway at Royce Brook Homeowners Association, Inc. is a business. How many businesses do you know that don't have their own email system, that don't have their own website, that don't have this? Why am I saying it to AOL emails and Gmails and stuff for the board? I mean, I went and looked before I came here. grb-hoa.org is a domain that's available. I can buy it for $19 a year. I can get Microsoft Office accounts for $5.95 a month for people. In that also comes what you're asking for, which is a global mailbox. You can have something called HOA at that, you send it to it, the property manager gets it, the board gets it, it's cheap enough to do. How many businesses are out there that don't have this? We are a business. It's a basic requirement of business. That's one of the first things I would address, is the whole technology infrastructure, which is non-existent.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you. John.
I'm Jorge. Regarding the speed of the cars, have the engineers considered putting speed bumps? No, I'm not kidding. I used to have another HOA and we had them, nobody had to enforce it. You want to speed, break your car, your problem. Right? Yeah. The other thing, again, a suggestion is an annual assessment. Yes, we have to ask volunteers to go, but you have to outline what are the criteria. check the box, you see something you don't like, then you send to the owner, hey, so this, please have to fix it. Give it time, if it doesn't, then you know, add some kind of assessment on the monthly bill to fix it. So you think about it.
Wonderful.
Steve.
Well, I don't think, I don't think speed bumps is the answer. I don't think the emergency trucks want the speed bumps any more than the rest of us want to take our cars and go over speed bumps. So again, we have to self-monitor in a way. We have to have responsibility for ourselves, our own behavior. The gentleman in the back who talked about the delivery trucks, I'm not talking about that. But we all here have to stay within the speed limit. We have to follow what we think are rules that will make us all enhance our own safety. And it's not just the board that can do that. We all have to do that. So I don't think, speed bumps is the answer.
Okay, everyone hold on to your seats. It's sign the apocalypse. I'm gonna agree with Marty. I don't think speed bumps are the answer, okay? Write that down. But look, I have 4 speed bumps, but after almost being broadsided a half a dozen times in the past 2 years, as I go by the low end of Klein and people don't stop. I mean, I've literally slammed on the brakes and they've slammed on the brakes. So I understand the issue totally and clearly. I don't think speed bumps are the answer, but okay, I'll let you know in secret. Anybody who almost hits me, I signed up. BMW has cameras all around the car. I signed up for it. It will be captured on video now. So next time someone does it, I'm going to find out who they are and go address them. But I don't look. I don't know what the right answer is. Part of it is we've got to honestly. We're all supposedly retired. We're here to enjoy ourselves. What the heck are you speeding for? You know, it doesn't make sense.
It's
But-
not the resident, it's the visitor.
Yeah, but honestly, I literally followed somebody over a year ago who almost came out and broadsided me. I literally followed them where they were going and confronted them because that's how angry I was. And by the way, every time I ride by that part of Klein, I say to myself, I want to put a speed bump there. And so I totally understand where you're coming from.
Thank you. Anything else on Zoom?
I invited them to raise their hand so they can ask the questions and I haven't heard back.
Final call for live questioning? Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Well done, and excellent questions from the audience, thank you. Okay, the last part of the agenda is the closing statement from candidates.
I had a question.
First, the order. You want the?
No, I'm just saying we set a new record.
Hello, I had a
Party for
question.
the closing statements.
Yeah.
Hello, I had a question.
First of all, I want to thank the candidate planning team. All of you guys did a great job as always. Too much trouble with the red. And that's a good thing. I mean, your efforts create a space for transparency, dialogue, and community engagement, which really can't ask for more than that. On August 24th, on August of 2024, Premier handed the keys over to us. And there was, and he agreed through the financial, negotiating with the financial team at that time to pay whatever the deficit was getting to the end of the year. Rich and company put together a budget in 25 for the first time. And January 5th, I was appointed to the board to assume the vacant position of treasurer. Since then, I worked diligently to manage our finances with discipline and foresight, always focused on maintaining stability and building towards a surplus. Over the past months, I've had the privilege of shaping our community with communication as follows. Serving as board liaison to the Rules and Regs Committee and Finance Committee. Champion the inclusion of a community forum prior to open board meetings. Advocating for bi-monthly open board meetings to strengthen transparency and responsiveness. Sharing information with residents whenever legally possible. Helping secure funding for essential transition expenses. Interpreting and prioritizing items from the transition study. Acting on your feedback, we negotiated the Geese Chaser contract from yearly to monthly. We updated the alcohol policy so that the final policy is something that we can all live with, or we just wore everyone out, one of the two. And also the pond maintenance contract, that also had to be negotiated. We're also doing, as I said earlier, we're doing a feasibility study on replacing the metal gate on Kalina between Hardgrove and Price. I review and negotiate contracts to protect the association's financial interests. Attend community events and maintain open, respectful dialogue with residents. We have a ways to go, but I think that we have begun the process. If elected, I'll continue to focus on clear communication, fiscal responsibility, and transparency. I'm proud of what we accomplished together and remain committed to serving with integrity and respect for the community. And I thank you for your trust and engagement. Vote for me.
Thank you, Mark. John?
So again, thank you to the planning team for putting this together. This is a good forum and event, but it's also a little restricted. Not everyone's comfortable enough getting up in front of a group. So for those of you who are not, Thursday, 4 p.m. in the library, come by, get to know me. So, and that's my way of starting communications, a dialogue both ways. I think that's important. Let me make very clear why I decided to run. Gateway at Royce Brook Homeowners Association, Inc. is a business. The board needs to manage the business. They need to stop poking around in our personal lives. Too many of the things like sanctioned clubs are all about interfering in our personal lives. I don't want the board interfering in my personal life anymore. I'm running to basically say, you need to stop saying, like you did in that email, we're a governing body. You're not a governing body. You are managers of a business. Manage the business, and I'm going to curse, stay the hell out of my personal life. That's my platform. That's it. And if you believe in that, and you believe in two-way communication and basically managing the business and staying out of our personal lives, I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Okay, how about another round of applause for the people?